The time is just gone 9:39 a.m. and we continue with the broadcast this morning and looking at the second presidential summit on gender-based violence and femicide. And we're talking to one of the executive members of Muslim Muslim Call this morning, Sister Aisha Huele. Aisha, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for having me.
I mean, Jazakallah to you for coming on and talking to us. And obviously, this has been quite an important summit because we know gender based violence, femicide is still a pandemic. In fact, it has been described as the second pandemic in South Africa. Now, looking at the summit, what are some of the key issues that have been the areas of focus, Aisha?
Jazakallah again for having me. So as you say that GBV has been now being stated as the second pandemic. Looking at the entire summit from day one and day two, it seems that both ministers, deputy ministers, and your DGs are not entirely focused on basically services related to GBV. In as much as there are services, there isn't really much focus on them. And when you look on the ground, you find that there are all these organizations and people who are doing so much of work and needing the support from the government, which they are not entirely getting from them. So yeah, that was the key issue that was found in the entire summit.
Yes. Now, what you're saying is absolutely important because, this is the second summit, and we know a lot with the first summit. A lot was said. There were a lot of suggestions that were made. There were a lot of proposals that were made at that point in time in terms of improving the situation. But the situation just seems to be getting worse, and there seems to be a lot of inaction on the part of the powers that be, and also looking at the resources that have been made available, it appears as if they've been channeled in the wrong direction, Aisha.
Sure. Even the information that's being shared, on the first day, there were presentations by different ministers, and one that just really disheartened me was the presentation from the Minister of Police. The stats that were shared, so they shared stats on the number of cases that came through that were related to GBV, the number of rape cases, number of femicide cases, etc. And when you look at them, you really see that this is unreal, They reported femicide cases for Northern Cape, and that came up to 0 cases, which, in all honesty, and from what I know, it's a complete lie, And fortunately, there was someone from Medical Research Council who also had stats that related to femicide cases. And when you look at her stats, you see that there is actually a huge difference between what they have and what the police have. And you ask yourself, is it that from the police side, are these cases being ignored? Are documents being sold? And are cases being, thrown out? What is the actual problem, from their side?
Yes, Aisha, what about resources to deal with this pandemic on gender-based violence? Because surely that must have come up as a point in discussion, and this has been a major cause of concern. From the time this crime of gender-based violence is committed, going to the police station, reporting the thing, and also at the end of the day, looking at the victims, the lack of support, but also the perpetrators of gender based violence getting off very, very lightly. We've heard about cases where many of them are granted bail of 1,000 rand, and then this case just drags for years and years, and there is absolutely no urgency in dealing with, and more importantly, making sure that these perpetrators are brought to book and given the punishment they deserve.
In terms of resources, right? I'll look at the financial resources, which is one of the major things that are obviously required in order to deliver these services. So yesterday, and the way this disheartened me, I just decided to go and sit somewhere else after that panel. There was an accountability panel which had the Minister of Social Services, the DPSA Deputy Minister, and amongst them also was the DG of acting DG of Treasury, National Treasury. And you could see that there was such lack of preparedness for this for the questions that he had, or the questions that were asked of him. And these questions were questions that were offered or sent to him beforehand, so he had enough time to prepare for them. And when asked about the finances regarding GBV services across all departments, he mentioned that he did not have the numbers. So we're sitting there and we still not sure if there were any financial resources that were allocated to departments previously, and if there are still going to be more resources that will be allocated to departments going forward. Um, and just from my side and reading the documents that are available publicly on the National Treasury website, I do know that there are services, or rather finances, that has been allocated for social development, which transfers most of their funds to NGOs. Basically, about 80 billion of it is transferred to NGOs who then provide GBV services to the public. They provide your shelters, they provide psychosocial support, they provide most of that. But when you look at the police side, you know I'm not really sure. I actually wanted to know how much is being allocated to the department related specifically to GBV, in order to pinpoint what the actual problem is. Is it the lack of financial resource, or is it the lack of the department themselves doing the jobs that they need to do in order to, you know yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
Aisha, I think the other concern is, is this just another talk shop? Because we know since the last GBV summit, the situation has actually got worse. And are we
Mm,
going to wait for the third one, and the situation is still going to be where it is, or even getting worse? Because, you mentioned the police, but also looking at the justice system. And there was all this talk, there was all this hype about special courts being set up to deal
mm,
with gender based violence. And none of that seems to have materialized.
mm. That's honestly true. Even the implementation of the NSP, when asked, when are we starting? We have this NSP, but when are we implementing it? It seems nobody has an actual answer, and nobody is committing to an actual time that, okay, we are going to start doing 1, 2, 3, 4 on this specific date. When Justice was asked about this, they gave 2 dates, no, in December and in January. And a question was asked from the floor that, you're saying what you're saying. Next year, we know that soon there's going to be a shuffle, and you won't be the Minister of Justice. There's going to be someone else. So how do we then feel assured that what you are saying is actually true and is actually going to happen? Because we've been waiting for this implementation, but nothing has been done since then.
Yes, Aisha, at this point in time, what other options are there?
Honestly, to take it into our own hands and to do the most that we can. We cannot fully rely on government to do what needs to be done. So as Muslims on call, we have also tried to do the little that we can. We've had a few cases where We've had to assist women who found themselves in situations that were, not so good for them, and Muslim women, that is. And we've tried to assist them, well, mostly in terms of finding shelter and finding places where they can hide until such time they were ready to, take action, open cases, and such things.
Well, Asha, we're going to have to leave it at that, but we certainly will follow developments. And as always, we value your time. We appreciate you taking time out talking to us here right on Salam Media. All the best to you and the organizations, to everyone else involved with Muslims on Call. Jazakallah once again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Jazakallah for having me.
Aisha Khwele with us this morning, and we're going to go for a break. We come back and we're talking with Gwinyai Taruvinga, postdoctoral research at Humanities Graduate Center at Wits University. The Ethiopian government and Tigrayan forces agreeing to end the 2-year war.